There has to be some common sense.
Yes, sir. They have the car stopped at 10th and Ranch Microbizer.
We still don't know who pulled the trigger.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. I'm your host, retired NYPD Sergeant Bill Cannon, and with me today is retired NYPD detective and straight out of Brooklyn, Phil Grimaldi. How you doing, Phil?
I'm doing pretty good, Billy, and I must say I love that open.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, right?
Yes.
Not bad. So, folks, this case of Cassie Cawley, the missing Florida mom, it's really quite concerning to me and anyone that's ever worked in law enforcement. Any of you guys watching this, we really fear that something bad has happened to her. And I'm going to go over a little bit of the timeline right now. Law enforcement is still searching for a Florida Panhandle mother who went missing after heading out to pick up her young daughter from the child's father, Marcus Spanavello. According to Santa Rosa County Sheriff's Office, the 37-year-old Cassie Cawley was last seen on March 27th near Navarre Beach in Pensacola Beach. Days later, law enforcement says Cawley's 4-year-old daughter, Sailor, was found safe with Spanavello in Birmingham, Alabama. Not much else has been revealed by law enforcement. You know, as of March 27th, in an interview with NBC News, Cawley's sister, Rayanne, said Cawley and Spanavello made a last-minute change to the location where they exchanged their daughter. The two had decided on Navarre Beach near where Cawley had been staying with her dad. When Cawley's father woke up later that night, he told Rayanne neither Cawley nor Sailor came home. Cawley's father calls authorities to report her missing on the 28th. And on the 29th, Santa Rosa County Sheriff Bob Johnson says deputies discovered Cawley's car outside a restaurant in Navarre Beach. Her purse, which contained all of her belongings, was found inside. Later that day, Sheriff's Office makes a post on social media asking for the public's help in locating Cassie. On March 30th, Santa Rosa County deputies make the trip to Birmingham to speak with Spanavello. Johnson said that when deputies arrived, Sailor was home with him. Child Protective Services checks on Sailor, and Spanavello is interviewed by authorities. So, as you can see, there's some concerning things right there, and we'll do a deeper dive into it. But Phil, obviously, these two had a past. He's the baby's daddy, as we call him, the father of Sailor, spelled Saylor, the 4-year-old child of Cassie that they have in common. There's been some history. There's been some threats. Almost all the time in these cases, law enforcement always says, oh, he's not a person of interest. He's not. And they mean the opposite. They mean exactly the opposite. Everyone knows that he's a person of interest. Everyone knows that he's going to be the target of this investigation. And we'll dig deeper into that as the broadcast goes along as to why. Phil, your thoughts?
First and foremost, here we go again. Another situation with a missing wife, mother of a baby. It's just very, very troubling, the whole thing. One thing I want to point out, during the Summer Wells case, we called for the removal of the other children in that home, and I'm calling for that in this case. There is a ton of circumstantial evidence. There were statements by Cassie to her brother that if something should happen to her, that he would be responsible, that Marcus would be responsible. He also made a statement that over the last 2 years, Marcus had been threatening her. There's enough here to say that child is in possible danger. And I think that Child Protective Services could probably go to the location, whether he's living in that trailer or he's living in a home, whatever it is. And if they go into the refrigerator and there's a 6-pack of beer and an expired container of milk and a stale bread, I think it's time to remove that child. Besides all of the possible circumstantial evidence that's going to point to violence in the history and in the past. So, number one, let's call for the removal of that child. That child is probably not safe. That's a 4-year-old baby. Let's get her out of the custody of of Marcus until we can dig deeper into the investigation and find out what happened to Cassie. Now, with all of the things that are suspicious in this case, um, I watched a press conference by the Santa Rosa County Sheriff's Department, and I actually watched it just a little while ago. And the sheriff that was giving the press conference made some statements, and I think it was very telling. He said, "Now she's missing since Sunday night. We're almost a week into it, 6 days." And he said, and I believe the press conference was from yesterday. He said that a person, there's no credit card activity, no cell phone activity. That's very, very unusual. I think where, you go through life, if you don't use your card in one day, that's unusual, pretty much. I mean, people use credit cards for everything. The other thing, the cell phone, there's no activity on the cell phone. Those two things right there jump out at me. That screams suspicion that something happened to this woman. So with all of those facts, Billy, we called for it in the Summer Wells case. Within days after we said it, I don't know if it was because we called for it, the kids were removed in that home.
Billy, I agree with you. I would take the kid right now. I would remove that kid
immediately, if
because
not
you err on the side of safety for the child,
Absolutely.
and that's what I would do.
Yeah.
One of the most concerning things to me is last Sunday, Carly's father, who she lives with, received a text message from Carly's phone saying she was having car and phone trouble. No one has heard from her since. Porter says a friend named Porter says the child's father told Carly's father that he dropped her off at Porter's house, which Porter says was not true. So there's two lies right there. First of all, the text message is more than likely coming from Marcus using her cell phone. So if that's not a red flag, a more than a red flag, a blown up red flag that something really egregious has occurred, and they, even the sister and the family members said the text wasn't written in the style of language she would use and the punctuation. So it sort of shows that someone else had control of that phone.
That
according
brings
the
me
sister,
right to
she said-
Brian Laundrie, Billy, with the Gabby Petito case, where the cell phone text messages didn't sound like it was her. So again, it's like a parallel situation.
Exactly right. And she said also the text messages received from the sister's phone were not her specific speech. So you can tell how someone talks by the way they text and vice versa. And she indicated that. I want to show this was taken off of someone posted this on Facebook, and this was supposedly from Marcus Spanavello. Sailor is with me. She wanted to be dropped off in the middle of nowhere in Destin with Sailor. Destin is a city in Florida. I told her I wouldn't let Sailor go like that, to give me an address and I'd take them to it. Yeah, cops already called me and I might call again for more questions. If they do, I will. Apparently, everybody will be asking me that. So I'll just copy and paste what I told your father. I mean, that's a scary text message to me. It's showing he's trying to create an alibi already early on in this investigation. Very, very disturbing.
The other thing is, with that text message, he sounds like he's leading investigators to Destin, which would probably be a location away from where she may be. Now, let's start at ground zero, Billy. Police get called, a missing person, and the first thing they're going to say is, where was she last seen? And they're going to say she was last seen. She was that we know of. She was doing an exchange with the baby's father. And the other suspicious thing about that is, why was the location changed at the last minute? They were supposed to be in one location to do the exchange. However, they chose this beach area. And from the video that I saw and the pictures that I saw, it's kind of a desolated area. And again, it was 7:00 in the evening, or a little bit after 7, where at that time of the year, it's starting to get dark. So again, this is all very, very suspicious. A lot of red flags raised here. And as you know, Billy, in investigation of missing person cases, the first thing we're going to do is interview the last person to have seen her alive and well. And again, he's already caught in a couple of lies. I don't think he'll be able to come up with answers for a lot of the investigators' questions. I don't know if he's stopped talking to the police or stopped cooperating, but it sounds like the police are, the sheriff said that there's the whole major case investigative team is on this missing person case. They have the help of the FBI. So I think all the right steps are being taken. I don't have any problem with any of that. And we know where this is pointing, Bill. You and I talked about it before we went on the air. So
absolutely. Let's play a little bit of this. This is the family, the brother, the sister, and a couple of friends who started a search for Cassie right away, and they were interviewed on News Nation. Let's play a little bit of
Seeing
this.
so many people from high school come out in the last 5 days, it's fueling our fire. Like, we're not stopping until we have Cassie and Sailor home. And I have yet to meet a single person with a bad thing to say about her. Yes. I can't think of anybody that doesn't like Cassie or wouldn't want to hang out with Cassie, because she is always cutting up and laughing. Like, when I think of Cassie, the first word that comes to my mind is like joy.
And you can tell with the community rallying behind you and your family and Cassie's family and friends, just the rallying that has gone on. It speaks to how much she is loved in this community. I've been on the phone really around the clock for the last 24 hours, texting, calling, and the amount of love that has been coming through. It's just, we can hear it in your voice. Can you tell us what it was like when you first found out that Cassie could not be located? Now, again, for the audience just joining us, on Sunday night around 7 o'clock, she goes across the causeway in Navarre Beach to pick up her daughter. This was relatively normal, right, you guys? I mean, relatively normal to pick up her daughter on a Sunday night because her daughter was in her father's custody on the weekends. Do I have this correct? And then something went wrong. Can you kind of walk us through exactly what transpired?
It was every other weekend, and it was actually supposed to happen in Destin. It wasn't normal for her to be meeting him there. Sometimes, rare, maybe once or twice a year, she had met him in Navarre recently, because we understand that there's a family that would babysit often for Marcus when he had his daughter 2 days out of 14.
And for those of you, Marcus who was named yesterday in the press conference by the Santa Rosa County Sheriff's Office. Marcus is the 4-year-old daughter of Cassie's father, who is in Birmingham, Alabama. But we'll get into that here in just a few moments. There's a lot to this story. And so what was it like when did you find out, all of you, when did you find out that Cassie had disappeared, and what was that like, and where did your mind go when you originally heard the news that she was missing?
Our father, since she resides with him, he was the first immediate red flag when he 3 hours later and she still was not home, and he contacted me the next morning, still just so worrisome. And of course, I reached out to her friends. She is always in contact with her family and friends. Even during the exchange, she would have texted. So we immediately, our red flag was Marcus, because she has always had some concern for her safety in general. But we know Cassie would have reached out to us if something was not looking right or suspicious.
Yeah, it's not like her at all. It's not like her.
Mm-mm.
So
we know beyond a shadow of a doubt she would not have left anywhere with Marcus, being in Navarre, her hometown where she grew up, and she could have called hundreds of people within a mile's radius to come and get her. Yes.
And this is
her
what
daughter
has been concerning, is because now we heard yesterday out of the mouth of the Santa Rosa County Sheriff's Office about her purse being located. But what do we know about her phone? Because normally somebody goes missing, the first thing you do is you call them, you text them. Do you have any idea where
we're not sure
is?
What has happened with her phone? We know that it wasn't in the purse. We know that, we've all been calling and texting it since we realized what was started happening Monday evening. And it's gone straight to voicemail. Her text messages went from blue to green, which if you know Apple phones, you know that means something changed that shouldn't have changed. We're really confident in the Santa Rosa County Sheriff's Department. We feel like they're working really hard, and they're protecting whatever information that they may have, because it's in the best interest of finding Cassie right away and prosecuting whoever's responsible for this disappearance.
I have a lot of questions to ask in the next few minutes, because I know you guys have to go resume search efforts. You have places to be, and you're taking time out of your day to join us. And again, the reason that the family is here, folks, and friends of Cassie is here, is for a very specific reason: to get the share count up on social media and to increase exposure. Again, looking for the missing mother out of Navarre Beach, 37-year-old Cassie Carley. I want to hone in on the phone for just another second, because Cassie's father received text messages from Cassie's phone. I think it was at some point that night, and that was, I think that was a bit alarming to the entire family. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you've told me that was alarming to the entire family, correct?
Yes. That the text messages my father received from my sister's phone were nothing of typical speak my sister would have said, especially the claims of car and phone troubles at the same time. She would have walked to the nearest gas station if she had to before getting Marcus for any type of help in a situation like that.
Something else I've looked at with these text messages recently is, if you look at the way the punctuation is and the verbiage, he slips up, I believe, in some of these text messages and leaves out words like he typically does in his own text messages. It sounds like him.
And I want to just backtrack for our audience, because I know you guys have been talking about this so much, but what you are saying is that you do not believe that the text messages about the car being broken down, those text messages that went from Cassie's phone to the phone of her father, were not sent by Cassie, and
We
was
do not.
sent. And
We do not believe that those messages were sent by Cassie.
And who do you believe sent them?
Marcus.
Marcus.
She's been
The last
telling
person
me,
to see her alive.
she's been telling me for the last 2 years that this dude has been threatening her. He's pulled a gun out. She's worried. She's never wanted me to come around. And she's always said, if something happens to me, it's him. And
So there you have it, folks. So much evidence pointing towards the baby's daddy, Marcus. He also, just an addendum, he's a Brazilian national. So I don't know. I've never heard him speak. Potentially, he could be speaking in broken English, and maybe that's how he texts also, because they indicated that the punctuation wasn't of the text messages, was nothing close to what she would send. The other thing is, one of the things would be if they can get another set of keys to the car and just start the car and show that it never broke down. That's like slam dunk evidence. That was 100% a lie. So there's a lie that the car broke down. He's sending text messages from her phone. He said that he dropped her off at a friend's house that night, which he never did. There's 3 lies in a row right there. So the other fact is, she left her purse in the car. What woman ever would leave her purse in the car? There's been no credit card or debit card activity. Well, obviously, because she doesn't have them. Where is her cell phone? There's a big question right now. Where is her cell phone?
Very good point, Billy. And I think the fact that the cell phone was in use later that evening, that cell phone is going to be key to this investigation, because they can track the whereabouts of that cell phone if it was turned on. And even if it's off, there's still pings that come out of an off cell phone on certain types of phones. I think they can get a roadmap of where that phone traveled to that may help in the search for Cassie. Again, his cell phone. I'm sure there's a search warrant being done, a subpoena for his cell phone records. It does take some time. I don't think they're going to get it immediately. It may be a day or so, but that may be helping and aiding in the search for Cassie, because if you see the cell phone left the area of Navarre Beach and where the exchange was supposed to happen, and then it goes to another location and it stays there for a period of time, that may be where Cassie will be found. So that's going to be very, very important evidence. And then again, we always talk about surveillance camera technology. There's surveillance cameras just about everywhere these days. Traffic cams, the different areas of Florida may have plate readers and different things like that, tolls. So all of that stuff's going to be looked at. From the early onset of this thing, when I started looking at it, I think I got a different perspective now from watching that press conference. I didn't know that the exchange was going from Marcus back to Cassie with the child. I thought it was the other way around. So again, that sounds like it could have been, predicated that he was going to do something ahead of time. He changed the location at the last minute. All very suspicious. All very
Folks,
suspicious.
in the chat, it's very common in domestic violence incidents and just in custody incidences that the child will be exchanged in a police station right in front of the desk. And that's probably the safest place you could make an exchange of a child. If there's any kind of bad feelings, if there's any kind of danger for the woman by the husband or the significant other or by the baby's daddy in this case. In this case, they had it worked out that they would exchange the child, I guess, every Sunday night at a specific location, which they said most of the time was Destin, which is the town, Destin Beach. And for whatever reason, they changed the location this night. And it gets a little scary. I was referring to the text messages before, and here it is, right? This is allegedly sent by Cassie. I'm sorry, Carl was acting up, and I broke my phone. I don't know if someone would say, I broke my phone. I don't know. Marcus is working on it. I will stay at his place tonight. He is paying me money to do some stuff around his house. And then the question, are you in PCB? No, the screen is jumping all over the place. Let me see if he can get this fixed, and I'll call you. They also mentioned, the sister mentioned the phone went from blue to green, which means something changed in the phone. I'm not that knowledgeable.
I could explain that. When you have an Apple iPhone to an Apple iPhone, the messages go in blue. Unless there's it could have to do with a reception problem or if the phone is shut off. So then it goes to green and it becomes a text message as opposed from an instant message is blue. It goes to a text message and that turns into green. So if you text someone that doesn't have an Apple phone, you'll get that green background on the message, meaning that it's a text message as opposed to an instant message. So again, at some point it goes to the green, which means the phone is out of range of service, has some type of a service problem, or it's shut off. More than likely, it sounds like it was shut off at that point.
Let's hear from the sheriff, Bob Johnson of Santa Rosa County.
And as you know, most women don't leave their purse behind when they go somewhere. So that caused us a little concern.
Police have been in touch with Carly's ex-husband, Marcus Spinavello. They interviewed him in Birmingham, Alabama, and say he is cooperating and not considered a person of interest right now.
Well, I can say it's an ongoing investigation, and he was the last one to see her that we're aware of. So obviously we are intent on speaking with him again.
Detectives are reviewing surveillance video. They say they don't have any evidence yet that leads them to believe this is either a homicide or an abduction, but say there are many red flags in the case.
Missing persons cases, a lot of them, we find the person, everything's fine. But usually you don't go 4 days without hearing from them or them using a credit card or a cell phone or something. And right as of now, we have none of that. So yeah, we're concerned.
Now, investigators say the search is now extending beyond Florida, and they're asking the public for help. They're asking anyone who sees anything or hears anything to call their local Crime Stoppers. And Adrian, I just want to point out the sheriff that we spoke to earlier did say that even a small piece of evidence could lead to a break in a case like this.
All right,
So yeah, amazing. And as per that, they asked folks that if they had some pictures to send them into police. And there's a picture taken from someone who was on vacation in a condo nearby. And that is Marcus's truck pulling his trailer there. And further on up in the parking lot, that has been identified as Cassie's car. So is this helpful? Yeah, I think it could be helpful, So we know that they have a track that we see he had his truck and he had a big trailer behind. Is that his typical modus operandi? Is he always have that huge trailer being pulled by his car? Or was this special night and he had that trailer with him for some other reason that may be nefarious?
Billy, right off the bat, that trailer and the pickup truck, that would be something that I would be doing an extensive examination of for physical evidence, and the whole area between where that vehicle is parked and her vehicle. There could be evidence of, God forbid, and I hope that she's safe, but there could be evidence of blood. There could be evidence of a struggle. I would rope off that whole area. I would do an extensive search. And again, that vehicle would be the highlight of my search. I would want crime scene to go through both of those vehicles extensively, as well as her vehicle, obviously. And who knows what, real solid evidence may come out of that area and those vehicles. And again, we hope that she's safe and sound. There's nothing that would make me happier that she would pop up safe and sound, but we have to, face reality. She hasn't been heard from since Sunday, hasn't used the credit card, hasn't used the cell phone. And, the investigators have to do what they have to do.
This gives you on the screen, we have a map of the area, and it gives you a little, it's very, very close to Alabama. Birmingham is really close to this area of Florida. It's in the
Panhandle.
northwest coast of Florida. And you can get some kind of idea of what it looks like. And then the town of Destin, I think, is very close by also, since that was the location that they would frequently exchange the child. Phil and I had spoke before about the ability of a 4-year-old to be a witness, and I've had some experience in that. And they're not really they're not swearable. They cognitively can't understand things that they may have seen, so they're not really good as a witness. So we talked about that, because could the 4-year-old sailor may have seen something? Yeah, but they don't remember it. They're not be able to recall it, and they're not able to articulate what they saw. So a 4-year-old, in fact, is not a good prospect to be a witness.
Don't forget too, Billy, when by the time that they did get to find Sailor and Marcus together, who knows what he said to her over the course of days. If there was a fight that she witnessed or some type of violence, he could have, over and over repeated, yeah, mommy and I were fooling around, we were play fighting, or who knows. But I think it would be worthwhile to speak to the child. But you made the point that 4-year-old is not swearable in court. It's not going to be something that could lead to a successful prosecution down the line. I guess I'm getting a little ahead, but I think it might be worthwhile talking to her just to see, was there a fight or something? You never know. The kid may recall something that could be useful in, trying to locate maybe a location that they were driven to. Obviously she's safe and sound, but like we said in the beginning of the show, that kid needs to be taken out of the care of Marcus for sure.
Annie excellent point. And I, in fact, don't know the answer to this, and maybe you do. No one has definitively said by witnesses if Sailor was even at the meetup. That's a very good point.
Absolutely.
No one may know that at this point, and obviously Marcus has told numerous lies. So why would we believe him in anything he was going to say in regards to whether or not Sailor was with him during the meetup? Folks, this is Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. If you like this podcast, if you like our channel, please go on our YouTube, hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, and ring that bell. And you can also join our channel by going on our Patreon. We have 3 different levels. And also, if you want to join our YouTube family, we'd really appreciate that. Mickey Mantle, thank you so much for the $20 or 20 pound super chat. I don't know exactly what that is, but thank you so much for your support.
Thank you.
So our YouTube family, you could join us. We have 5 different levels, and you see the folks in the green font belong to our YouTube family, and we really appreciate you guys. I'm going to play a little bit of this interview with her sister, and let's see what she says. She has to say to this reporter from News Nation.
Time for you. When did you know something wasn't right?
I knew immediately Monday because we talk daily. We were at the best we'd ever been in our relationship. And Monday, when I hadn't heard from her, I knew something. And my dad called me, though, that afternoon and confirmed my gut feeling that something was not right. And he had not heard from her.
And tell us about his communication before her disappearance.
She lives with my dad. So she left out the door just to a typical exchange. Go pick up Sailor. Hi, Dad. Be right back. I'm just going to go grab Sailor. And he's okay. No worries. Drifted asleep, but woke back up 3 hours later. And there was no sign of her or Sailor home. So that's when he began to worry for the worse.
So terrifying. And she actually, I understand, always picked a public, well-lit place to exchange her daughter for pickup and drop off. But on this night, they changed locations at the last minute. Tell me about that. And then about the place where her car was found, because that was in a dark parking lot, right?
Right. Well, their normal exchange was in Destin at a Walmart parking lot, very well-lit public place. Seeing as he resided in Panama City, but he had been conveniently working in the area recently in the past month around the area of Navarre to save her that trip to drive all the way out to Destin. So she decided to meet him at Juana's. And I think that was just one of the first public locations that popped in her mind that she was comfortable with, that usually was well lit or popular with some people. But unfortunately, it was dark that night.
And police are not talking about that exchange, but they did say that her purse was in the car. And then they also said that Sailor was safe the entire time. What do we know? What can you tell us?
We know that Sailor is in Marcus's custody still, but Sailor is not safe until she is home with her maternal family, where she resides normally at Dad's house with Cassie. So we are still working on bringing her home, but we are hopeful that we'll get some more answers for Cassie as well.
And so there are so many questions and pieces that just haven't been put together, right, in this whole disappearance of your sister. Police say they don't suspect foul play. What do you think?
Let's just say my sister did not walk away on her own, did not disappear on her own. She has always said, based on his past actions and the issues with the custody agreement going on currently and all that, we knew when she would never leave her daughter either. So something was not right. Cassie would never just disappear like this ever, or willingly get in the car with him to go somewhere either, unless coerced or something. So we knew immediately something was not right. She was in the best place ever right now, excited to start a new job.
Yeah, and they were sorting over sorting out these custody issues, and then her ex and her daughter were found in Alabama. So what are the circumstances there? Was that something that was normal?
We did have knowledge that Marcus has worked in Alabama before and traveled back and forth, whatnot. My sister was aware of that too. So finding her there was not a super shock, but yes. We're not sure, though, whether Cassie may be somewhere around that area. We are going to be heading that way and searching and hopefully finding more answers.
And obviously there were concerns because she hadn't used her phone, her credit card, and then that purse in the car. What do you make of all of that?
Just not like my sister. She would never, and especially if she were to leave on her own accord, she would have her purse with her. I even joked a little bit. Did she use her card? She loves to use that card. No, there's been no sign or trace of her, but we do have hope that she is somewhere and alive and we can bring her home.
How is your niece doing?
Sailor is okay. Unfortunately, we have not been able to touch direct base with her either, so we're hoping we can change that here within the next day or two, though. We're going through all the paperwork and legal stuff we need to do to bring her home safe.
And she's such a beautiful woman, I'm sure, inside and out. And I know you have matching tattoos with your sister. Tell me about that. Tell me about the bond with your sister, because this is impacting a family in such a real way.
Folks, there's some people in the chat saying when you heard them say that the police say that he's not a person of interest. Well, that's absolutely not true. They're saying that because they don't want him to invoke counsel. He is the number one suspect. I'd even go as far as to say that he's, they use that term person of interest, but he's the last person to see her alive. He's told numerous lies. People that aren't guilty don't need to lie. He's made up stories. I find that to be quite egregious. I think that the police have a lot more information than us. How about the previous family court agreement between these two? What was alleged in that? Did Cassie allege violence or the threat of violence from Marcus? It seems that she did, because the family indicated that he's threatened her, that he's threatened her with a gun, that he's threatened her with physical harm. So he's absolutely 100%, I believe, a suspect at this point, not just a person of interest, a suspect. The other thing is some of you folks asked, oh, why did she just give her child over? Because the law told her that she has to, that he is the child's father. He has visitation rights. So she absolutely has to comply with the terms of family court in turning over the child. And he has to comply with also by returning the child at a certain time. Phil?
It sounds like there was a custody agreement in place. They said every other weekend that the child would spend time with the father. The baby would stay with him over the weekend. And again, you made the great point. When a custody agreement has been arranged through the court system, if you don't provide the child to the father who has paternal rights, you could actually be held in contempt of court, and there's a thing called custodial interference. So I don't think she willingly just turned the kid over like that. There are laws in place. There's guidelines that have to be met with family court, and there was obviously some type of a custody agreement in place. Even though there was these threats of violence and stuff like that, he still retains parental rights. It's probably established that he is the father. So I think that's actually a side note at this point. It sounds to me like there was a premeditated act here. Again, that earlier before you played that video, one of the people in the chat said, we don't even know that she was present at the actual exchange that was supposed to take place. He may have had made decisions. You know what? I'm not going to let my daughter go back with you. A fight could have erupted, and who knows what violence took place after that. And now she's missing. I think all the points were made. She loved to use a credit card. Like I said, people usually, I use my credit card several times a day. So there was no credit card use, no debit card use. Again, the cell phone, we have the text messages. The verbiage doesn't sound like her. Sounds like it was him that was in control of the cell phone at that point. And it's not that far of a stretch to make those presumptions because, as you stated, he was the last person to be in the company of Cassie that we know of. And again, the posture of law enforcement to talk to him and treat it as a missing persons case and stress to him, listen, this is the posture that I would take. You are the last person I've seen her alive. Can you please stay in touch with us, help us, give us information so we can find her, and keep him at an arm's length where you can have him cooperating. You want him cooperating. You want him speaking to law enforcement. Again, he's made several missteps with lies on whereabouts and stuff like that. So once you have him cooperating, he can make statements about his whereabouts. And then you're going to look at the cell phone information. It's going to show where her cell phone was, where his cell phone was. And again, you'll lock him into stories, keep him at a cooperating posture. And I think that that's the right thing to do. He's not dumb though. He's probably very well aware of what's going on as far as the investigation. He knows he's the number one suspect. Let's not kid ourselves. But as long as you have him in a cooperating posture and he can make statements about his whereabouts, about her whereabouts, the movements that took place, he makes this claim that she wanted to be driven to a desolated location. Well, did you drive her there? The cell phone technology is going to tell you if his vehicle actually went there. Now, he could be sharp enough and smart enough to actually have driven to that location. He wants to put the police in the area of Destin, it sounds like. So, again, he may have did that ride. He doesn't seem like he's stupid. And again, if this is premeditated, which it sounds like it is, since the The location for the exchange was changed at the last minute. So there's a lot of indicators here that there could have been some premeditation with regard to what he wanted to set up or how he wants the police to look into this. He wants to put them in one direction. However, I think that the search is probably most likely best targeted right in that area that you're showing, Billy, right now. I think that would be the most area of interest that I'd be searching if I were the detective on the case.
As far as the investigation goes, you mentioned before, very super important. It seems like it's one of the most important things in almost any investigation this day and age. And it's two things. One is the cell phone, and not a single cell phone, but his cell phone as well as Cassie's cell phone, because that'll give us correspondence, but also gives us something called cell site locations, and specifically on his cell phone. That will build a whole timeline as well as a geographical area where he was at every single point of the time that they're interested in investigating. Those things can take a while to come back. I know folks think that the police can just press that easy button and they get all that stuff.
Doesn't work that way.
Immediately. It doesn't work like that. The phone company has their own schedule, and they'll get it to you as quickly as humanly possible. Other things, is the you talked about it before, license plate readers. They must have license plate readers around there. Let's see where he was. How about interviewing friends, family, co-workers of his? All right. Again, I always like to say
get
that,
to that.
they need to get search warrants. That's all of this stuff takes time. And they also need something called probable cause. A judge just doesn't issue or sign a search warrant if the judge doesn't feel that you have probable cause. So until you have probable cause, a judge isn't going to sign the search warrant. One of the things that's good that he lied numerous times. So sometimes, even when we talk about stop, question, and frisk, reasonable suspicion can go up to probable cause when someone lies to you. Because why are they lying? They're lying because they're obviously guilty of something, or they committed a crime and they're trying to cover it up. He's lied at least 4 times or been less than truthful. The whole thing with the cell phone is scary. Again, it reminds us of the Gabby Petito case and Brian Laundrie using her cell phone to text her parents about the grandfather. I think he used the incorrect name for the grandfather, or a name that Gabby would have never used. Same thing in this. He's texting almost in his language, or the way he would text, leaving out words, maybe not using the same punctuation. So to me, that's a huge, huge red flag, and it's a little bit scary. And the fact that, and I'm glad the person in the chat, and we listened to you guys, brought that up, that is a very good chance that the daughter, Sailor, was never at the exchange. I
Absolutely.
never had even thought of that. Thank you so much, the person that mentioned that. That's a very good possibility, and probably a probability is she wasn't there, So thank you again, and we do listen to you guys. And
Absolutely.
Look, anyone could, that's why they say many ears and many eyes are very important, and because you see things in a different way, and that's why they say the old adage: if you see something, say something.
Based on that, Billy, in the early part of the investigation, I'm sure that the detectives went to him and asked him, what happened? When did you last see her? And he came up with whatever story he said. But they're going to ask him about his whereabouts. Where did he go? Now, does he live out of that trailer that's being pulled by the pickup truck? Does he park it at a certain location, or does he live in an apartment? So again, you made the point, Billy. I would want to know what his whereabouts was. So let's say he said, well, I parked in this area. I'd want to go to that area. I'd do a canvas in the area. I would talk to people, neighbors, friends, other people in the area. Or if he lives in an apartment, then I would again talk to the neighbors, friends, people that are in the area, and see if we can, impeach his story. If he said he was here Sunday night and nobody saw him, then we can call him out on it. If he was in another location, and again, there was a talk about that there was somebody else in the area that did babysit the baby for a little Sailor for him. I would talk to that person. Was Sailor with you on Sunday night during the period of time when the exchange was going down? Because that's a very good point that person brought up in the chat. Maybe she wasn't with Marcus when he went to go meet Cassie at the location. So I would talk to that person. So all of these things are going to be very important. So we have at least 2 or 3 lies that we know of. There could be several others. We're going to punch holes in his story, his timeline, his alibi. And again, all of these things. And I think a case is easily made to get Sailor out of the custody of Marcus. 100%, Billy, 100%.
Yeah, folks, we're going to go to a quick break and we'll come back and take a deeper dive into the evidence in this case.
Joe Murray, attorney at law. Have you found yourself in a jam? Are you in need of legal counsel in the New York area? Do you need a victim's advocate? Well, Joe Murray is your man. He's not only an experienced trial attorney, he's also a retired 15-year member of the NYPD. He literally knows both sides of the fence. His website is jmurray-law.com. His telephone number is 646-838-1702, or you could email Joe at joe@jmurray-law.com.
The secret to quickly hiring the best police officers before your competition does. With an extremely limited job candidate pool, law enforcement agencies have to quickly identify and hire qualified police officers before another agency does. That's why nearly 70 U.S. agencies have updated their hiring processes to include iDetect, a fast, affordable, non-invasive, unbiased, and automated lie detector. It accurately identifies lies by watching the eyes. iDetect also helps solve crimes. In an interview with Convera CEO Todd Mickelson, he shared stories about how iDetect is changing the way the world detects deception. Remember, the eyes don't lie. Converis.com, 1-801-331-8840, or you can contact them by email at info@converis.com. You know, Phil, we've covered so many of these cases, and this also brings to mind the Maya Malete case. To underline the fact that none of this, minus a smoking gun type of evidence, is going to happen quickly. And that's why law enforcement, they take their time because they want to make sure when they're ready to pull the trigger on a potential arrest or if something is found out, that again, we say this ad nauseum, they cross their T's and they dot their I's.
Let's look into his past. Maybe there's an outstanding, some type of summons or something that they could grab him and put him into custody. And, let's keep on the search of Cassie. Let's get the baby out of his custody. And I think that's where the wheels will be turning and this investigation will be going in that direction. I hope that they have constant eyes on this guy. We don't want him to start trekking across the country to try and change his location or anything like that. And, there's too much suspicion here. There's too much circumstantial evidence that some foul play may be involved in her disappearance. And I think that his whereabouts need to be maintained 24/7.
Well, if anything, he's a foreign national. Maybe they got to move a little quicker because he could flee the country. Maybe they should hold his passport. What to do all of that, you need to have probable cause. You need to have more than what we're talking about now, which we don't know what they have. They potentially have a lot of evidence that we don't know about. Let's play a little bit of this little.
Navarre Beach, the last known sighting of 37-year-old Cassie Carley. According to Santa Rosa County Sheriff's investigators, it was the drop-off location for a custody exchange with the father of her 3-year-old daughter Sunday night. Reported missing on Monday, Cassie's car discovered in the back parking lot on Tuesday with her purse still inside.
I've been married 32 years, and I'll tell you, my wife goes nowhere without her purse. So to think that she just left it there and just walked off is, that's what concerns us.
The father of the child, Marcus Spanavello, tracked down by Santa Rosa investigators Wednesday in Birmingham. The child found safe. While Sheriff Bob Johnson says Spanavello was questioned about Cassie's disappearance, he wouldn't elaborate on what was said. But friends of Cassie tell us the former couple were involved in an ongoing, bitter custody dispute.
Well, I can say it's an ongoing investigation, and he was the last one to see her that we're aware of. So obviously we are intent on speaking with him again.
The FBI and Florida Department of Law Enforcement are also assisting in the search, which goes beyond Santa Rosa County. This as detectives continue to go through surveillance video.
We didn't just assign a detective. Our entire major crimes unit is working this. So you've got 10 detectives that's pretty much all they're doing right now is trying to locate Cassie.
You know, you hope for the best and you prepare for the worst. So that's what we're doing.
Also determined to find Cassie, a team of friends, family, and volunteers who've had boots on the ground since Monday. They plan to expand their search further east tomorrow.
I wish you could all see and know our Cassie. If you could know her for just 1 minute, then you would be committed to find her and be out here every day to find her. So don't give up, and don't give up on hope. We're going to find her and we're going to bring her home.
You know, Phil, another thing that just as I was watching that really bothers me is the fact that he was supposedly there to exchange the child with her, to give the child back to her. How does he now explain that? How does he explain that to investigators? Wait a minute. Oh, is he claiming that she was reckless? Like she was just looking to go out partying and she was going to go. He claimed she was going to go to Destin and she didn't have an address, so he wouldn't drop her off there. So did he, in fact, according to his story, just drop her off there and keep the child? But that wasn't supposed to be the deal. He was supposed to be returning the child to her. So that part of the story, too, I have a problem with it.
Well, right there, Billy, he violated custodial agreements. So I think they could probably, based on that, remove the child from his custody. I'm glad that the FBI is involved in this thing. Of course, they may be able to get some of the cell phone information quicker than normal with normal law enforcement, being involved in the case. There's just so many things with this case. I don't know. I really hope and pray that she can be found, but I'm not very hopeful at this point. This is an ugly case, it seems like right now. And again, the lies, all the missteps that he's coming out with. There's something going on here for sure.
Lori Stout, the friends and family stated Marcus spoke fluent English, but in front of the judge used his accent and swayed the judge. I don't know. I'm amazed what some of you guys know that we don't know. A tricky girl. If the suspect is not arrested, law enforcement can observe the suspect with hopes he will incriminate himself. Like Scott Peterson continually checking police activity at the marina and talking to Amber Fry. You know, the big thing in this case, and for Phil and I right away, we jumped at it, is like, really? You're going to let him hold the daughter? He's going to be able to have custody of this 4-year-old girl. I don't like that. I want that the girl taken away from him immediately, forthwith, as they say in the police service. You know,
that's right. He sounds like he has an obsessive, compulsive behavior. This is my daughter and like that. So again, I'm very fearful of that child's safety at this point. And I can't implore them enough. I called for it in the beginning of the show. I'll say it again. That kid needs to be removed from that person's, Marcus's control and custody. And, I think she should be right back with the grandparents and the aunts and the uncle. I think she's much safer with them as opposed to him. You don't know, what's going through his mind. He's obviously under pressure. He knows that he's being looked at. I mean, let's not fool ourselves. And her whereabouts are still unknown. It's very, very suspicious that there's foul play involved in this case. And he's the last person I've seen her alive. And I'm sure that they're talking to him, maybe several times a day. He's not stupid. So again, let's get that baby out of his custody, and then we'll go from there.
Alicia B., Bill and Phil, is it safe to assume law enforcement have eyes on international airports? What they can do is they couldn't put a flag on him.
They can flag him for sure.
But they actually have to check themselves every day just about, and to see if anyone of that name tried to get on a flight, because it's not like you see on TV, that easy button, they just put it in all their computers, which there should be a way to do that. But it's law enforcement has to check on all of these things. Elise Goff, it's according to the child's ability to conversation with my granddaughter is 4. She could tell you anything she sees. Elise, I'm going to have to disagree with you because when a 4-year-old child sees something that is traumatic, they just totally bury it. And my experience, we had a 4-year-old girl that witnessed a double murder, and she wouldn't talk about anything in regards to that. So it's different than having a 4-year-old tell you a story about where they went that day with grandpa or their aunt or their uncle. But if it's a traumatic experience and have them be a witness, it's not happening.
Bill, I have to comment on that. You make such a really good point, and I'm sure that that woman means well what she's saying about her granddaughter. Kids could be so smart. I remember I used to read my daughter a book at maybe 3 years old, and she didn't even know how to read, and she would read it back to me from memory. So yeah, there's obviously things in a pleasant situation. I was laying down with my daughter, getting ready to go to sleep, and I would read her a book. Would had one sentence on every page, and she would remember it and be able to read it back to me without being able to read. But again, you made the point when you're talking about something traumatic. We have internal defense systems that even as a child, they'd want to block it out and not remember it. So, like you made the other point earlier in the show that a child of 4 years old is not swearable in court. Every case is obviously different. Every person is different. So one child's ability to recall things might be much different from another child's ability. And again, what took place may have been of a traumatic nature to that child, and that child may want to just forget it and not talk about it, and they shut down.
Scotty Wagner, the retired NYPD detective from the 2-3 squad in Spanish
Good
Harlem,
point.
El Barrio. The U.S. Marshals should be brought on board, and that he's a foreign national. That can shut down all routes out of the U.S. for him. They must return the child. Scotty, we're 100% behind you, but they have to have, reasonable cause to believe, probable cause to believe before they can just do that. And I'm sure all the guys that are working on this, and someone asked in the chat, why does the fact that the FBI is involved in this case tell you anything? Yes, one of the things it tells me is that local law enforcement requested their assistance. The FBI have expensive toys that local law enforcement doesn't have that can tremendously help an investigation like this. In addition, he may have crossed state lines.
I was just going to say that.
In the commission of a felony, which automatically brings the FBI on board. So there's 2 potential reasons why the FBI is on board. But the FBI has tremendous resources at their disposal, the kind that local law enforcement does not have. Andy the Gabby Cabby, was a child present at the supposed exchange or somewhere else? Andy, we don't know that. Someone in the chat actually brought that up, and we were baffled because we didn't know the answer to that. Because no one, apparently, according to the person in the chat, and I wish I had committed her name to memory, was that no one can attest to that. No one is a witness that the child was there. Was thus a total setup on his part? If so, where was the child at the time? Did someone else know something? Andy, maybe you shouldn't be a cab driver. Maybe you should be a detective. Those are
Let's
great.
bring them on board.
Those are excellent questions. Excellent
Absolutely,
questions.
absolutely. Billy, I want to make a quick point. Could you put that up again? I just want to make a quick point about the text messages. Now, at the end, Andy, now who comes from the UK, did someone else know something? He put the word NO as opposed to KNOW. And I don't think that that's, whether he spelt it right or incorrectly, that's the way he said it. And again, that text message, the family recognized the text messages from her cell phone early on in this case, that it didn't sound like car. That's a perfect example of it right there, where Andy, who's from the other side of the pond, will say know something, meaning NO, and where we would spell out KNOW. So I think that that's a point that needed to be made.
Viv Hyde, if, as he has allegedly said, that the mother flipped, should he not have gone to the authorities straight away instead of taking the child out of state?
Great point.
It's a good point, but when you use the totality of circumstances and you see how many lies he's been caught in, why would you believe that he's alleged this about the mother when everyone else that's around the mother has said that the mother has been perfectly normal and great with the child, and no one else has alleged this? So he has an axe to grind, and that's why he's lying, and he's been caught in numerous lies already. And you know, I've seen these type of cases before, and I'm not prejudging him, but people that have good intentions don't lie 4 or 5 times. They tell the truth. And some of the lies was so egregious as to say that he dropped her off at her friend's house, which is so easy to prove that he didn't. You asked a friend, no, he never dropped anybody off. So to lie like that, when it's very easy to verify what the truth is, you wonder what this guy's thinking.
Billy, another thing that's got me concerned about the child is this. If he wanted to flee, now you said he's, I believe, a Brazilian national, you said?
A Brazilian national,
Okay, so if
yes.
he's a Brazilian national, he probably holds a passport. For him to get on a plane, obviously they may have flagged his travel plans or whatever, but I don't think that the 4-year-old is going to have a passport, and would it be in his possession? So he's not able to escape with the child. That's the point I wanted to make. That places her in danger. You know what I mean? If he wants to flee and he can't just, he knows he can't jump on a plane, even if he has his passport, because does a 4-year-old have a passport? Maybe, maybe not. And is the passport going to be in his control? So those are some of the things that really got me concerned, and I really can't stress it enough. This kid needs to be removed from his custody.
Michelina Sereno, first of all, thank you so much for being on board and listening to the show. I can't imagine what that poor child is thinking. As Phil said, the father broke the order. Done deal. Well, yeah, I think they have a reason. We talk about this all the time. And look, the investigators, we don't know a lot of the things that they know. And they know that if they push too hard, what do you think's going to happen? He's going to invoke counsel, and they'll never get to speak to him again. So they want to have enough evidence. They want to have enough things to challenge him with, so that when they go in the next time to interview him, they have the advantage over him and not vice versa.
They're going to lock him into a story. As I said, the first day, the first interview, you're going to get a good, hard, solid interview about his whereabouts, his movements, when he met her, what he did, where he took them, where he went, and where did you spend the night? Where did you go after? And then when you talk to him the second time, where were you today? Those are all the things you're going to lock him in. And then you're going to try and punch holes in his story little by little. So again, listen, you're going to keep the posture that we're investigating a missing persons case. We need your help, since you were the last person that we know of that had seen the victim who is missing. So you want to keep him in that posture. Again, I point out, he's not dumb. He's not stupid. He's going to talk and tap dance his way through that. How far he before he invokes counsel is yet to be seen, but he's going to continue to cooperate. And we've seen it in so many cases. Somebody brought up the Peterson case and other cases. At some point, he's going to say, hey, you guys are looking at me as the suspect. I want to speak to my lawyer. I don't want to say anything further. It may happen today. It may happen tomorrow. It may happen next week. It may have already happened.
But something, my feelings is that you cannot tiptoe around that. You have to go at it aggressively when you have the information to challenge him with, and you have to go in and do it. And if he lawyers up, he lawyers up. There's nothing you can do about that.
Absolutely. I think that's probably a good investigative step to have taken. I think it may have been done already, but I would have, you have several lies already. I would have put him in the box, and I would have went at him hard and strong and see if he broke. But, and listen, you know what? It's kind of like a dangerous situation, because if he doesn't break and he does invoke counsel, then you can't question him anymore. So I guess that decision has to be made. But I think at this point, knowing what we know, I would have done that, Bill. I would have got him in the room, and I would have punched, I would have asked him one more time to go through his story, and then I would have just hit him with all the lies, and I would have made the case that if she's found and she's not safe and sound, you're going to jail for it. And I would have did what I had to do, what I do in the box. I'm not going to go any further than that, but I would have got my point across. And again, it's one of two things is going to happen. He's either going to continue to lie, or he's going to invoke counsel, or he's going to break. It's one of those. I guess it's three things. It's one of those three things would happen. But I think we're at that point, though, Billy. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think that you got to always move forward. You can't sit and wait. I mean, I think they got enough information to definitely interview him and challenge him. All he can do is invoke counsel, you know. But I think it's also time for law enforcement to take the child. I firmly believe that. Julie
Couldn't be
LaRussa,
stressed enough. Couldn't be stressed enough. You're right
if
about
he
that,
did
Billy.
nothing wrong, he could have returned the child to the family, right? Absolutely. Absolutely, he could return the child to the family. In fact, I think the family is working on getting the child. So I don't know exactly what's going on right now. Lieutenant Peter Pranzo. So true, Phil, keeping him on a short leash while having him believe otherwise. 100%. And I think, Lieutenant Pete, that's why law enforcement is saying he's not a suspect. He's not a person of interest, which we all know to be quite the opposite. And I think anyone with half a brain, even the suspect, knows that he's the number one suspect in this um, tricky girl. Whereas the child is with the dad. Yes, that's what we were talking about. That's why we think the child should be removed from the dad. Yes, she is with the dad.
Bill, I would make an emergency petition to family court. Now, family court may not be in session on a Saturday. This could have been done yesterday, whatever. But I would make an emergency petition to the family court where this case obviously has been before because they have this custody arrangement. And I would make a petition to, I'd get in front of a judge and I'd say, Your Honor, here are the facts of what's going on. She's missing for 6 days, primary care of the child. He only had custody on the weekend. The child lived with the grandparents and had a loving family. There was the sisters, the brother, and we believe that something, foul play may have taken place, that her whereabouts are unknown. We want the child out of his custody because of the flight risks, all the other things. He's mobile with a trailer pulling on a pickup truck. And I don't think you'd have a far stretch to get the judge to sign an order that, you know what, have the child removed from him and put back in the care of the grandparents pending a future hearing or a future court date. That should be done immediately. And I'm not even a lawyer, and I think that argument can be made.
I 100% agree with you. Let's hear a little bit more from the family.
No, there are also other possible individuals that have spoke with him. If you know anything, say something, please. Any tip is not too big or too small.
He works in Alabama, so we know that's where he is. And we're confident that the Santa Rosa County Sheriff's Department is following the proper legal avenues to make sure that nothing is slipping through the cracks and that we're going to be able to carry this all the way to prosecution if that's where it comes to. And so we're very confident that they're doing exactly what they need to bring Cassie home to us and to make sure that they don't let whoever's responsible for this get away with this.
This story now starting to reach not just a national audience, but there's even publications around the world that are starting to pick up on Cassie Carley.
That's what we want. We want the world to be looking for Cassie. She would be here if she could be, and she would help every single one of you in this exact situation. We want the world to be talking about her, looking for her, and looking at anybody else that they think could have anything to do with this.
And that's why we've activated Share to Help on the bottom of your screen, sharing this out on Twitter, sharing this out on Facebook. Again, getting these images out there to as many phones and devices and eyeballs as possible in the hopes of finding Cassie Carley. Coming back, before we let you go, we know you have only just a couple of more minutes. I bring up the national and international media attention because of how rapidly this has been evolving over the last several days. I wanted to give your family and Cassie's friends and family, everybody, just the opportunity. Is there anything that is being reported that has been erroneous? Sometimes when you have various agencies reporting on a story and they're not located here in Florida, things can get taken out of context. What do you most want to either correct or the world to know about this story as it continues to unfold?
We're trying not to let the misinformation get out there. And I think I've seen a lot of people who take something from 3 days ago and are applying it today. This is a constantly fluid, changing situation that we, as Cassie's friends and family, are really just doing the best we can. Luckily, one of Cassie's great friends, Sam Graves, has passed law enforcement. It's amazing the village that Cassie has built, that have come together and are literally just putting all of our heads together and sharing and searching and thinking and praying that she gets to come home.
Yes. And I just want it to be known too that my sister was in the best place. She was so happy and hopeful for the future. And there is no reason to believe she would ever choose to do something like this on her own, ever. And she would never, ever leave her daughter, ever.
The only time Cassie has not had her child during her custody time, which is 85%, is when Marcus has taken her previously against the law, and we've had to get the law involved to get this baby back 2 weeks later. This has progressed. This has been escalated, and we want this to be a lesson for every future Cassie, that this needs to stop, that this is not okay. It's becoming all too often, and we're not having it. We're not having it.
Yeah, she disappears right before he's got to pay.
We will not be quiet.
Yeah.
We will not.
Right before he's got to pay.
all the attorney's fees.
Like
and child support.
money too. It's just sad.
What is the plan for today? I know that there have been routine search efforts going on all week, and some of the video that we'll play here, you'll see some of the search efforts. Before we let you go, where is the family? Where are you guys heading? And what is the plan as the search continues for Cassie Carley?
We're going to keep linking up with the Santa Rosa County Sheriff's Office, putting our heads together and searching every tip and lead that comes to us. There's nothing too small or too big that you guys can call Crime Stoppers. It's ** tips, TIPS. You can call the Santa Rosa County Sheriff's Department, 911. There's nothing too small that can't be shared. We're going to keep looking until Sailor and Cassie are home.
So obviously the family, your heart goes out to them. They're searching. We hope there's a positive ending to this situation, but it seems somewhat bleak. Bob Murphy, Sailor has since been taken by Alabama Child Services. Bob, I have no information on that. If you do,
I hope that's true. I hope
it's
that's
true, because I think
the argument is right there. Because did you see what the friend said in that last clip you just played? That there was a 2-week period where they couldn't get the child back, and there was a court order and stuff. So he's violated this before. I hope and pray with that last comment is true. That kid needs to be out of the custody and care of Marcus. And it does sound like there's a premeditation here based on all of the backstory that we're getting now, Bill. There's something that was in the works here for sure. And like the friend stated in the last clip that you played, this has been building. It's been getting more and more egregious to deal with him. It sounds like he had to pay now. There was a lot of motive here, a lot of motive to bring harm to this young lady. A lot of motive.
Absolutely. Folks, on the screen, we have report a tip, 850-983-1190. We're hoping and praying that there's a positive outcome to this situation, but it's not looking great. After it's almost coming on a week. Tomorrow will be 1 week that she's been missing. There's a lot of things, a lot of red flags in this case that really are concerning to anyone that's ever investigated this type of crime, this type of missing person, and it's just horrendous. Phil, final words.
Final words, Billy. I'm so glad you put that up because we need the public's help. We got to get the word out there. As much information that could be put out where there might be something that somebody saw something that could lead to us finding the location of Cassie. The other thing is, I hope law enforcement does not drop the ball like they did in the Brian Laundrie situation where they saw someone leave the house and they had only video cameras set up, and it turned out that they thought it was the mother. It turned out it was Brian, and that turned tragic, as we know. Again, let's hope and pray. God bless this family. You could see that this is a beautiful, loving family. Let's hope for the safe return of Cassie. And I'm just hoping and praying that last comment is true, that this young 4-year-old sailor was removed from the custody of Marcus. And we're going to be on top of this. We'll keep looking into it. And when need be, we'll get right back on the air about it. Thank you for everybody in the chat, all the listeners. And let's just try and get Cassie home and get that little baby back home with Cassie's family.
Folks, again, we're going to stay with this case. If any breakthroughs, any more information we have, we'll come back on the air. But thank you so much for listening, and have a great day.
Stay safe, everyone.
One episode